Our story takes place in France, a long time ago. This was a land rich in history, culture, and conflict. The medieval period was a time of great upheaval and transformation, where the destinies of nations were forged in the fires of war and the hearts of its people. It was a time of knights and castles, where chivalry and honor were the codes by which many lived. These towering fortresses and brave warriors were the symbols of a society that was both romanticized and brutal. And a big war raged across the land. This war was not just any conflict. It was a struggle that would shape the future of Europe for generations to come. This war was called the 100 Years' War. It spanned over a century, involving numerous battles, sieges, and political maneuvers. It was a time of great suffering and heroism, where the fate of nations hung in the balance. France was fighting against England. These two powerful kingdoms were locked in a bitter struggle for dominance, each vying for control over vast territories and the right to rule. In the midst of this chaos, a young girl named Jeanne d'Arc emerged. Born in a small village, Jeanne was an unlikely hero. Yet her humble beginnings did not deter her from believing that she had a divine mission. She would become a legend, a symbol of courage and faith. Clad in armor and carrying a banner, Jeanne led her troops with a conviction that inspired all who followed her. But Jeanne's story is not just about battles and victories. It is also a tale of deep spirituality and unwavering belief. Her faith was her guiding light, and it gave her the strength to face insurmountable odds. It is also about the power of belief and the enduring legacy of the Crusades. These religious wars, fought centuries earlier, had left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of Europe. Jeanne's story is intertwined with the Crusades, a series of religious wars fought centuries earlier. These conflicts were driven by a fervent desire to reclaim the Holy Land, a place of immense spiritual significance. These wars were about taking back the Holy Land, where Jesus lived, from the Muslims. The Crusades were a series of military campaigns that spanned several centuries, involving countless battles and sieges. The Crusades had a huge impact on Europe. They were not just military endeavors, they were also cultural exchanges that brought new ideas, technologies, and goods back to Europe. They brought back new ideas and goods. The returning Crusaders introduced Europe to exotic spices, fabrics, and knowledge that would eventually spark the Renaissance. They also strengthened the Christian faith. The Crusades reinforced the power of the Church and the belief in a divine mission, themes that would resonate deeply in Jeanne's own life. Jeanne's story would add another layer to this complex history. Her life and actions were a continuation of the spirit of the Crusades, embodying the same fervent faith and determination. This essay will explore Jeanne d'Arc's life and her connection to the Crusades. We will delve into the historical context that shaped her world and the extraordinary events that defined her legacy. We will delve into her humble beginnings, her incredible victories, and her tragic end. From her early days in Domrémy to her pivotal role in lifting the Siege of Orléans, Jeanne's journey is one of remarkable courage and faith. We will see how her unwavering faith and courage inspired a nation. Jeanne's leadership and vision rallied the French people, giving them hope in their darkest hours, and left an indelible mark on history. Her legacy endures to this day, a testament to the power of belief and the enduring human spirit. Jeanne d'Arc's story is a beacon of hope and inspiration, reminding us that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, one person's courage can change the course of history. Jeanne d'Arc was born in a small village called Domrémy in France. Nestled in the northeastern part of the country, Domrémy was a quaint and picturesque village, surrounded by lush fields and dense forests. The village was a close-knit community where everyone knew each other, and life revolved around the rhythms of nature and the seasons. Life was simple there. Jeanne's family were peasants. They lived in a modest home, made of wood and thatch, typical of the time. The family worked tirelessly from dawn till dusk, tending to their crops and livestock. Their days were filled with the hard labor of farming, but also with the warmth of family and community. They worked hard on their farm. Jeanne was a kind and gentle girl. From a young age, she helped her parents with the daily chores, learning the value of hard work and perseverance. Despite the challenges of peasant life, Jeanne's spirit remained unbroken, and she was known for her compassion and generosity towards others. She loved God very much. She went to church often, The village church was a central part of life in Domrémy, a place where the community gathered not only for worship but also for social events and support. Jeanne found solace and strength in her faith, and the church became her sanctuary. She prayed with all her heart. Her prayers were filled with a deep sense of devotion and a longing for peace and justice. Jeanne's faith was unwavering, and she believed that God had a special plan for her, even though she did not yet know what it was. Jeanne couldn't read or write. Like many girls of her time, she did not receive a formal education. However, her lack of literacy did not hinder her intelligence or her ability to understand the world around her. She was a keen observer and a quick learner, but she learned about God from her mother. Her mother, Isabel, was a devout woman who instilled in Jeanne the values of faith, hope, and charity. Through her mother's teachings, Jeanne learned about the lives of saints and the importance of living a virtuous life. She listened to stories about saints and heroes. These stories ignited her imagination and filled her with a sense of purpose. She admired the courage and righteousness of these figures and dreamed of making a difference in the world, just as they had. She dreamed of a world filled with goodness and light. Jeanne's dreams were not just idle fantasies. They were a reflection of her deep desire to see an end to the suffering and injustice that plagued her country. She longed for a time when peace and prosperity would reign. Little did she know that she would soon become a hero herself. Her destiny was calling, and the seeds of her future greatness were already being sown in her heart and mind. Jeanne's unwavering faith and her deep love for her country would soon propel her onto a path that would change the course of history. Life in Domrémy was peaceful, but the shadow of war loomed large. The 100 Years' War between France and England had brought turmoil and uncertainty to the land. The villagers lived in constant fear of raids and attacks, and the once serene countryside was now a place of tension and anxiety. News of battles and bloodshed reached the village. Messengers would arrive with grim updates about the ongoing conflict, and the villagers would gather to hear the latest news. Each report brought a mix of dread and hope as they prayed for an end to the violence. People whispered about the English invaders and the suffering they brought. The stories of brutality and destruction spread like wildfire, and the fear of the English soldiers became a constant presence in the minds of the villagers. The once tight-knit community now faced the threat of being torn apart by war. Jeanne felt a deep sadness for her people and her country. Her heart ached for the suffering of her fellow villagers and the plight of her beloved France. This sorrow would soon transform into a fierce determination to fight for her people and to fulfill the divine mission she believed was entrusted to her. When Jeanne was just 13 years old, something extraordinary happened. She started having visions. She saw bright lights and heard voices. The voices belonged to saints, messengers from God. They told her that she was chosen for a special mission. The saints told Jeanne that she must save France. She must lead the French army to victory against the English. At first, Jeanne was scared. She was just a young girl. How could she lead an army? But the voices were insistent. They told her that with God's help, she could do anything. Jeanne knew she had to obey. She left her family and traveled to the city of Chinon. There, she met the Dauphin, the French prince who would be king. Jeanne told the Dauphin about her visions and her mission. At first, the Dauphin was skeptical. He had heard many claims and promises before, and the idea that a young peasant girl could change the course of the war seemed far-fetched. He didn't believe this young peasant girl could save France. But Jeanne was determined. She had a vision, a divine mission that she believed was her destiny. Her unwavering faith and determination were palpable. She spoke with such conviction and passion that the Dauphin was moved. Her words were not just empty promises. They were filled with a fervor that ignited a spark of hope in those who listened. The court, initially filled with doubt, began to see the possibility of a miracle. He agreed to let her lead the French army. This decision was unprecedented, as no woman, let alone a peasant, had ever been given such a responsibility. It was a gamble, but one that the Dauphin felt was worth taking. Dressed in shining armor and carrying a white banner, Jeanne embodied the spirit of a warrior. Her armor was not just a physical protection, but a symbol of her divine mission. The white banner she carried was a beacon of hope and purity. Jeanne rode into battle alongside the French soldiers. Her presence inspired them. She was not just a leader, she was a symbol of hope and resilience. Her courage in the face of danger was infectious, and it bolstered the morale of the troops. They fought with renewed vigor and courage. The sight of Jeanne leading them, fearless and determined, gave them the strength to push forward. Her belief in their cause made them believe in themselves. Under Jeanne's leadership, the French won a series of stunning victories against the English. Each victory was a testament to her strategic acumen and her ability to inspire her troops. The once demoralized French army was now a formidable force. One of the most important victories came at the Battle of Orléans. This battle was crucial, as Orléans was a key strategic location. The English had laid siege to the city, and its fall would have been a significant blow to the French cause. The English had besieged the city, cutting off supplies and hope. The situation was dire, and the French defenders were on the brink of surrender. The French were losing hope. The prolonged siege had taken its toll, and the morale of the troops was at an all-time low. The defenders were exhausted, and the prospect of relief seemed distant. But Jeanne rallied the troops and led them to a decisive victory. Her presence on the battlefield was a turning point. She inspired the soldiers to fight with everything they had, and her strategic decisions were instrumental in breaking the siege. The Siege of Orléans was lifted. This victory was not just a military success, it was a symbol of hope and resilience. It showed that with determination and faith, even the most dire situations could be overcome. It was a turning point in the war. The victory at Orléans marked the beginning of a new chapter for France. It was a testament to Jeanne's leadership and the indomitable spirit of the French people. Her victories paved the way for the eventual liberation of France from English rule. To understand Jeanne's impact, we need to step back in time. Centuries before Jeanne was born, Christians fought in wars called the Crusades. Their goal was to capture Jerusalem, a holy city for Christians. They believed it was their duty to take back the Holy Land from Muslim rule. Thousands of people from all over Europe joined the Crusades. They were driven by religious zeal and the desire to protect their faith. The Crusades were long and bloody. They lasted for almost 200 years. Though ultimately unsuccessful in their main objective, the Crusades had a profound impact on Europe. They led to increased trade with the East and brought new ideas and knowledge to the West. Most importantly, they solidified the power and influence of the Catholic Church. The Crusades left a deep mark on European society. They fostered a sense of religious unity and purpose. They also led to the growth of powerful religious orders, like the Knights Templar. These orders wielded significant influence in both religious and political affairs. The Crusades also had a darker side. They fueled religious intolerance and led to violence against Jews and Muslims in Europe. The legacy of the Crusades is complex and multifaceted. They represent both the unifying power and the potential for division within the Christian faith. Jeanne d'Arc's story emerged from this complex historical backdrop. The Crusades had instilled a deep sense of religious fervor in European society. This fervor found its embodiment in Jeanne, the young girl who claimed to be guided by divine voices.